What is going on, you guys? Today I have another super quick episode. We're going to be reviewing a podcast from the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. He's interviewing Rhonda Byrne, and this episode title is "This is What You Get Wrong About Manifesting Money." Sounds interesting, so let's hop into it.
What else about money do you feel like people are missing when it comes to manifesting and the law of attraction?
One of the reasons people want money, and they say money isn't spiritual. There isn't anything that's not spiritual. Everything's spiritual, and but money is. People think they don't deserve it. Like for example, there is all the money that everybody needs and wants waiting there for them, and there's only one reason it's not in their lives, and that's because they're stopping it from coming into their lives.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I would say usually that's because of like limiting beliefs around. It's like subconscious thoughts and beliefs around the way that they were brought up, right? And so like for some reason they think that they can't obtain it, or like it's really hard to obtain it, right? Like it's only coming from hard work. But like construction workers are a good example of that, like working 12, 16-hour days, and they don't get paid as much as they should, right? So like that's a great example. Doctors too, right? Like doing overnight shifts or 2 shifts back to back, right? I mean, that's not really good for someone that's in health. Again, right, working hard but not really making enough. So, I mean, I like what she's saying. And also, if you don't know this, Rhonda Byrne wrote a very popular book called The Secret. So if you haven't heard of it, go check it out. It's basically all around this kind of stuff.
How are we stopping it?
By thinking we don't have enough.
Right.
By thinking we don't have enough. By thinking we don't deserve it. By maybe being programmed the way you were, that my family didn't have very much. I'm destined to not have very much, kind of born on the wrong side of the tracks, kind of.
Yeah, born this way, I can't change it. That's just the way it's going to be, right? Like again, right, you can see like it's ingrained in the subconscious, and you can pull it out, by the way. Like you can rewire that so you can think in a different way to realize that you're capable of generating the kind of wealth you want.
Or all of those thoughts, to believe that we only get money through our job. If you believe that that's the only way you're going to get money, that's the only way that you're going to get money. But you can get money from unlimited different ways.
Yes.
And so you start to open up your mind that money can come from anywhere, everywhere, right? And so money can come into your life. So straight away you open up, because law of attraction can only do what you believe. And so if you believe you only get money from your job, you see what we do? We are unlimited beings, and we limit ourselves down to nothing. We are unlimited. The world and all of its riches and joys is all of ours. And so, but we, through our beliefs, for this reason, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it because I didn't work hard enough. I need to work harder to get this. I need to suffer. I know that people, have money, they had to suffer. So we have all of these limitations that we impose on this unlimited being that we are.
Yes. Why does it seem like money is one of the hardest things to break through when it comes to believing we are deserving of money and believing that it comes to us effortlessly? Why does it seem like it's so challenging for a lot of the world?
I think it is to do with our deservability, that I just think that's ingrown into us. That what about all the things money doesn't grow on trees? I can't afford it. I mean, I came from a really humble background. My parents could not afford. We had secondhand clothes, so I had a whole lot of lack fed to me just by my day-to-day living as a child and growing up. I didn't ever feel that, but I certainly grew up with lack, because I knew when I discovered the secret, I had to turn my mindset from lack to a wealth mindset, to an abundance mindset. And so I set about to do that. And that's why I know anyone can do it, because I did it.
What was that process for you of turning it from lack into?
And if you do live in a lack or scarcity mindset, you can change that, right? Because where your energy flows, right, or where your attention goes, that's where the energy flows, right? So basically, like, if you keep telling yourself and creating a narrative like, it's impossible for me, this is never going to happen, scarcity, lack mindset, right? You're going to get more of the same rather than changing the way that you're doing things and your mindset around it.
Abundance.
It was all affirmations. I played affirmations, gratitude, being grateful for everything I had, affirmations to talk about that I'm wealthy already, affirming that I have plenty of money, that I attract whatever I need, and I'm a success with everything I touch, and all those kinds of affirmations. So I did those. I did gratitude, and anything that gave me a bad feeling around money, I reversed it. And one of those things was paying bills. Why? Because you never have enough money to pay the bills, right?
So how did you reverse that? When bills would come your way, what were you doing?
I pretended they were checks.
When it was a bill. And so what would you think and feel when you see it?
So back then, I would open the mail.
Right.
When it was like all these window-faced envelopes. And I would open the mail and like, oh my gosh, I didn't have any way to pay all of these bills.
It was like a dread feeling.
Oh, horrible. My stomach would just to my knees. So for everybody, I have been there. I have done it. I know how you feel if you're struggling with money. And I can tell you don't have to live your life like that. You really don't. And so I played games because law of attraction doesn't know if you're imagining something or if it's real. Doesn't know. Doesn't care.
Doesn't have an opinion.
Doesn't have an opinion at all. And so I would play these games where I would open it up, and maybe it was like $1,200 or something, and I would be like, whoa!
You'd be excited.
Oh yeah, I'd be excited. Oh, $1,200, and I would write it down, and I'd tally up the amounts of money that I got for that day. And it got to a point where I didn't feel I was getting enough, like it wasn't a tally. So I would add zeros. So the $1,200 I would turn into $12,000, and then I would add zeros, and then I would say, yes, $150,000 is mine today, And so
but it was really bills.
Yeah.
By the way, right, like you might be watching this and thinking, she's delusional. She's that's crazy, right? But it worked for her. And by the way, a lot of you probably know who Jim Carrey is. He's really big on the manifesting stuff too, like the law of vibration, attraction, et cetera, et cetera. And believe me, before you even say it, you've been thinking about it maybe this whole time. I was the first person to be super skeptical, like manifesting is woo-woo, blah, 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 right? Super skeptical. But you see a lot of people, like, for example, Jim Carrey's a huge example of this. Some people know the story, but basically, for Dumb and Dumber, one of his first biggest roles, he had written a check, I don't know how long before, like a fake check to himself. I think he was like looking at the Hollywood sign and wrote a fake check for like $10 million. And for Dumb and Dumber, he ended up making $10 million. So like maybe it was a few months later, a few years later, but it came to him, and that was like sort of like one of his breakthrough acting roles, right? So he's super big on this stuff too. And if you watch anything from him lately, he just seems like one of the most grounded people. Like I think he basically exited Hollywood, and I think that's part of the reason, right? One of the reasons, anyways. Because he's just like, he seems like super relatable. I would love to see a big interview with him these days, because I mean, he'd probably talk about that a little bit and also some other things. He's a smart guy, so let's keep going here.
They're really built.
Oh my goodness.
And so I would play that game so I would feel better, and then I would pay what I could. But do you know when I paid, I would do something else. I played another game.
Tell me.
When I paid, I would imagine that this money is not a bill, but I'm donating to the company. I'm making a donation because this company has been really great in supplying me with electricity. And so I'm making a donation, and this money is going to help all of the people educate their children.
Wow.
It's going to help them buy food this week. It's going to pay their mortgage. So I would think about all of the employees and the difference this money would make by giving this money. And so that would cause all the resistance to go away, right? A total meltdown. And that was how I did it. So I took the circumstances where I didn't feel good about money. Now, back then, we got bank statements. They were not pretty, right? But I changed that around.
Really?
Just with a bit of marker. I would just and I had credit cards because I, in Making the Secret, I kept borrowing on the credit cards to make the documentary. They were at the max. And I had 2 credit cards, and they were at the absolute max for amounts of money that was inconceivable to me.
Right.
And that I had absolutely no way of
paying it off, yeah.
No. But what I did was I just, added, I just pretended that when I got the statements, I would just pretend that I had, you know what I did? I did 0,000. And then I put thank you over the bill. And now I have 0,000 on my credit cards.
Wow.
But to this day, if I have a written bill or something, like if somebody comes to do a service at the house and I write them a check, and across that bill I would write thank you paid, because that is what I did with every bill I couldn't pay. I put thank you paid.
Wow.
And to this day I still write thank you paid.
Wow.
I know.
That's a kind of interesting concept that she was talking about with like paying a bill to like the electric company, right? Like you're like feeding them and their children, right? Because of course, like, you know, someone could have a negative mindset around it, but it's like a positive reframe that allowed her to basically create more sense of abundance in her life and positivity rather than the feeling of scarcity and lack, which obviously helped her in the long run. So that's super interesting. I know it would be hard being in that situation, because I'm sure it was for her too, right? Like, you know, like super tough situation. Like, oh my God, like how am I going to get out of this? So she had to find ways to reframe it.
Now, for people that are watching or listening and thinking this is a beautiful, you know, thing to try and to do, but if they still have to pay the bills and they're like, well, how far can I take this until I'm like the money is, you know, stacking up, or the bills are stacking up, where I'm like, I don't go back into overwhelm or stress that I haven't paid off these bills.
You have to pay what you can. Like what I did was I would play that game and then I would pay what I could. And I think even these days, companies are a lot more understanding than they were back then, you know, and they would say, if you ring us, we'll work out a payment plan with you and whatever. But I did pay those bills. I would pay the most urgent ones, like electricity, because I didn't want that to be cut off, right? And so, you do pay them, but I would just do things to feel better about money.
I think that is the thing I want people to take away from this story, is the play nature that you had with it.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of stress and overwhelm around money for so many people.
Yeah.
But which was the same for you for a long time until you started to play.
I did. I played all the time.
And that is a huge key to the secret, is being in a playful, energetic state, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, you might be able to recognize this. I think a lot of people create that sense of resistance in other areas of their lives as well, because they're always in a state of like anxiety, like this fight or flight survival mode, because your brain's trying to protect you. So it's like you're in this like this fear state all the time, but you don't realize it. You're like, oh, it's normal for you because you're doing it all the time, which is crazy to think about, right? So you have to be able to rewire your brain and recognize that to stop doing that. Because check this out, right? Like, it couldn't just be money, right? Like, some people will be doing that around their friendships, their relationships, like their dating lives, maybe their health and fitness, stuff like that. Like creating this sense of like fear and anxiety around it, like, and being more at play with the situation, right? Rather than being like, you know, this relationship's gotta work. Oh, like, because people will have scarcity mindset around that too, right? Like, oh, I got to make this one work. You know, this is the girl for me. This is the one, right? And it's like, I'm sure that there are multiple ones out there for you that are a good fit, right? So you can kind of see what I'm saying, right? Like, making it lighthearted and not such a big deal there was actually what helped her in this situation. But I hope this video was able to you know, shed some light on some sort of situation for you, help you out in some way. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. You got this, bro.